Hey, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Derek, and this podcast of GritWorks, we're going to dive into real estate strategies, growth mindset, and how to make your business thrive. Today, we're kicking off a special 4-part series. What I believe is one of the most powerful tools in understanding client behavior. It's the DISC profiling system. Whether you're new to DISC or maybe you've heard of it before but not really understanding what it means, my hope is by the end of this series, by the end of these next 4 episodes, you can see how it can revolutionize the way you connect with your clients and close deals. So what is DISC? DISC, it's a behavioral model that breaks down behavior into 4 different categories. There's dominance, influence, steadiness, and compliance. These categories explain why people communicate the way that they do and how they make decisions. And for real estate agents, this knowledge is golden. Knowing what type of client or other party that you're dealing with can help you tailor your communication, build better relationships, and let's be honest, close deals faster, with less friction, sooner, quicker, all the good things. So today's episode, we're going to focus on the first category, dominance, and I'm going to refer to it throughout this episode as a dominant personality. You've probably met these clients before. They're go-getters. They're the ones who don't waste time. They don't have time for long explanations. They want results yesterday. Does that sound a little familiar? If you've ever felt like you needed to speed up or sharpen up your approach with a client, you've probably encountered a dominant personality. Today, we're going to explore exactly how to recognize, communicate with, and build rapport with these individuals in a way that's smoother for both you and them. I'll be pulling insights today from a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to pick it up. I'm going to leave a comment below, pinned comment below for the book. It's called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. Erickson breaks down how understanding these different personalities can transform not only the way we communicate, but also how we view our interactions with the client, colleagues, and even family. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend grabbing a copy. And if you follow along with reading the book, Erickson refers to dominant personalities as red personalities. Let's get into it. Who are dominant personalities and why should you as a real estate agent care? Well, let's talk about what drives these clients first. Understanding the traits and characteristics of dominant personalities is crucial. Knowing these traits not only help you recognize the client, but also it equips you with the tools to knowing how to engage with them more effectively. What makes a dominant personality tick? First and foremost, dominant personalities are incredibly driven and they're goal-oriented. They have an extremely clear vision for what they want, and they're not easily swayed from their path. In a real estate context, this means they come with specific objectives, whether it's finding a property with a certain time frame, negotiating the best deal possible. They know what they want, and they're not really willing to budge on it. Have you ever met a client like that before? I certainly have. Imagine you have a client that knows exactly what they want. Let's say it's a certain home in a certain neighborhood with a certain price point, and they want to move in by a certain date, and they lay out everything of what they're not willing to compromise on. If they're sharing that with you, you're probably sitting in front of a dominant personality. This clarity for them and focus are hallmarks for the dominant personality. They have their eye on the prize, and it's your job as the agent to help them get there the most efficient way possible. Next up, dominant personalities are decisive and action-oriented. We talked about their goals, how they move quickly, but they're decisive and action-oriented. They don't like to linger in indecision. When faced with choices, they weigh their options quickly and make decisions promptly. Suppose you show them a couple properties, they will swiftly assess the pros and cons and decide if it's for or against them, if they meet their goals or not meet their goals, rather quickly throughout the process. You probably won't find them stuck in analysis paralysis where they can't make a decision, because their decisiveness helps them move forward quicker inside the transaction. And so they'll tend to pick the option or not pick the option that serves their purpose and move on to the next step without hesitation. They tend to move pretty quickly. Communication is very important with dominant personalities, and it has to be direct and it has to be assertive. They appreciate honesty and straightforwardness. Being prepared for them to cut through the fluff and get straight through the point is vitally important. You might hear things like, just tell me what I need to know. Like, let's just get to the bottom of it. What's the bottom line? They don't like the fluff. They don't like the long drawn out. I mean, even I'm doing it now, kind of drawing out how to even explain what the dominant personality likes. They just like it cut and dry. And that's okay. It's their way of focusing on results. This is probably the most key trait inside of a dominant personality, is they value efficiency. And they'll respect you more as an agent if you can keep up with them in their pace. Another key trait is their competitive nature. Dominant personalities thrive in environments where they can assert their power. And I say power loosely, but they want to achieve superior results. Like, for them to negotiate, it's a game to them. It's fun to them. They enjoy that thrill, that like spike of adrenaline, and their competitive streak can be a driving force in their negotiations and inside the transaction, and that's okay. So if they're bidding on a property in a multiple offer situation, they won't hesitate to make strong offers. And on the flip side, they won't hesitate to make low offers, because they're always striving to get the best deal possible, and they're always striving to push for an advantage wherever they can find it. Despite their intense focus, dominant personalities exude extremely high energy and enthusiasm. They bring a dynamic presence to interaction, which can be both inspiring, but it can also be intimidating and invigorating, honestly. You might notice them being animated in discussion or mute in their discussion. You can see them discussing plans passionately, maybe explaining why a particular property or situation might excite them. And this energy can be contagious. It can make the transaction process more lively and engaging, but it also means they have high expectations for those people that they decide to partner with. One last thing to know is dominant personalities aren't afraid to take risks. They're willing to explore unconventional options if they believe it will lead them to a better outcome. This trait for them opens up a unique opportunity in real estate, because they're willing to take risks that maybe some other people wouldn't be willing to take. They might consider investing on a property that needs more renovation than what most people might see comfortable, because they see the potential for higher rates of return as intriguing for them, instead of just sticking to a safer, more traditional investment. They're not afraid to take bold, actionable decisions. And as a real estate agent, as a realtor, we have to use this to our advantage to be able to present options and show them things that can align with their appetite and challenge for reward. So these are the traits that can collectively make a dominant personality powerful clients who can drive transactions forward with remarkable efficiency. But how can we as agents leverage these traits and build strong relationships to close more deals? So that's what brings us to this part of the discussion. Now that we know what drives a dominant personality, let's talk about how to build rapport with them. As a real estate agent, we have to understand that these traits are just the first step. The real magic with DISC, with understanding personality types, is what happens when we can align with the client's unique personality and build rapport with them by talking to them and interacting with them in a way that makes sense for them and is helpful to them. The real way that this happens, and this will apply to every personality type that we talk to, is we have to learn to mirror and match their style of communication, their rate of speed of communication, and communicate with them in a way that resonates. So how do we do that? One of the best ways is through mirror and matching, like we talked about earlier. Essentially, it means that we reflect their communication style back to them in a way that makes them feel familiar and comfortable. I didn't say that it's mocking them or trying to match their dialect or whatever way their voice sounds. It's mirror and matching their communication style. So what does that mean? Dominant clients are direct, so you need to be direct back with them. If they are fast and their rate of speech is quick when they speak, then you have to speed up your delivery and share news and talk with them that matches their same rate of speed, because that's how they understand information. Most dominant personalities, like if they're watching this podcast, they're probably watching or listening to it on like 1.25 or 1.5x because they just want all the information as quick as they can. And so we have to speed up the way that we talk back with them to match that. If they're assertive, don't shy away from being assertive. They want you to be confident in presenting your thoughts back to them. They will respect you more for it. I can promise you that. This shows them that you can match their energy and they'll respect you for it. And later on in this series, we'll talk about mirror and matching with other personality types that you might have to slow down your rate of speech. That might be uncomfortable for a dominant personality agent to slow down to match the rate of speed that their client might have if they're another personality type. Let's say you're showing a property to a dominant client, dominant personality. Instead of giving them long-winded details and descriptions about all the features and all the things that truly they don't really care about, focus on what's important to them. Like when you do your buyer consultation with them or you have that discussion, they're going to share the things that mean the most to them. You can talk about how the house has open layout within a prime location within their budget, and you think that it might be a really good option for them to consider. It's quick, to the point, it's truthful. We have to always be truthful, but you'll be speaking their language. Dominant personalities respect confidence and strength. If you're passive or hesitant, they may feel like you're not taking the lead or handling things efficiently. They don't need long explanations. What they're looking for is action and decisiveness. When you make suggestions as a realtor, as an agent, be firm and clear. Avoid phrases like, I think, or this might. Be confident and say, this is, or this would be. Like, give really good clarity-driven phrases to help them in their decision-making process. The clearer you are, the more they're going to trust your judgment, the more that they're going to align with you, the more that they're going to build and give rapport back to you. And what it'll do, it'll turn the client into a long raving fan, because when they share their experience with other people about you, they're going to say, they just get me. That is the goal with a dominant personality. If they explain your relationship with them to somebody else, for me, I just want them to say, they get me, they understand me. That's like prime. Imagine if a dominant personality client asks your opinion on what property is the best investment for them. This is where I think we can show extreme clarity and alignment within the relationship. I would say rather than listing all the pros and cons and going into just a long-winded explanation, just cut straight to the point. Like, this property offers the highest potential for resale value. It's in a growing market. It's one that I could go with. I think it would be a really good investment for you. Have clarity, have the data, like we're not making stuff up, but have the data to prove your point so that you can help the client become more decisive with the decisions that they need to make. For dominant personalities, everything boils down to results. They don't want to get bogged down with unnecessary details or dragged into long discussions. When communicating with them, always focus on how to be specific to the goals that they have or the actions that they need to help them achieve those goals. Frame your conversations around outcomes. That is huge. Whether it's closing deals quickly, getting the best price, securing a property, going on tours, negotiating inspections, negotiating on appraisal, like help them with actions to achieve their goals. Instead of talking about all the unnecessary fluff, Focus on the goals. That's the one thing that's extremely important to them. When you meet with them, you have to know their goals. That should be a basic question that you ask to a high dominant personality is, what are the goals that you're looking to achieve when purchasing real estate or when purchasing an investment? That's going to help you tremendously in the process. I can promise you that. When you keep the conversation goal-oriented, you are showing them that you align about what they care about most, and that's the outcome. One of the challenges with dominant personalities, they can be really tough negotiators. They're not afraid to push back. They're not afraid that they might come off as demanding. They're honestly not afraid if it's offensive, like if we want to be truthfully honest. But here's the key. They respect strength. So when you push, maybe you have to say, hey, that's a really low, probably unrealistic offer. You need to do it with facts, not emotions, and respond with data, evidence, logistical reasoning that backs up your recommendation to help them realign what outcome that they most want, which would be getting the house. What I find with a lot of newer agents is they tend to shy away through hard conversation with dominant red, as the book would say, personalities, is because they see them as overpowering and demanding, but they don't understand how to communicate back with them. This is probably the biggest key and challenge is you have to have facts, not emotions, and respond with data, evidence, and logistical reasoning to help them understand the position that you have. That will be respectful to them, I can promise you. If they question a list price, maybe it's a listing price of a house that you have listed and you're showing the house, don't get defensive or emotional. Respond with data, evidence, logistical reasoning that backs up how you price the home. Based on recent sales in the neighborhood and the current market trends, the price is competitive because of X, Y, and Z. Here are a few examples of similar homes that sold at this price point. This approach not only satisfied their need for clarity, but it also reinforces that you are the market expert and that you know your stuff, and they're looking for that. So dominant personalities, they hate wasting time. If you're spending too long on irrelevant details or drawn out processes or trying to explain things over and over and over again, one of the things that I think a lot of agents do, actually a lot of people do, it's not just real estate agents, not just realtors, is when we explain something, we tend to explain it 3 or 4 times different ways, but all the same way. Let me repeat that again, because I think it's really important to understand. When we tend to explain things, we tend to explain them multiple times because we hope that one of the ways we explain it will captivate or capture the listener so that way that we can understand where we're coming from. That to a dominant personality is aggravating. This probably goes in just conversation style in general. Don't explain something 3 or 4 times. It's okay to explain it once and move forward, because I promise you if the other person has a disconnect or doesn't understand what you're talking about, they're just going to ask. Don't feel like you have to explain it 5 times, 3 times, 4 times. Keeping things efficient and streamlined, especially when you're working with dominant personalities, is the most important thing that you could do when interacting with them. Whether it's a meeting, phone call, email, just get to the point as quickly as you can. When they answer the phone, you should say things like, hey, you can introduce yourself. The reason for my call or the reason I'm reaching out, I heard back from this. They probably don't want to be asked, how's your afternoon going? Just get straight to the point. Say your client is busy and they want to wrap things quickly. Instead of giving long summaries, you should just say, here are the things that I think we should do next. Give them next steps so that way they can see what's coming up in the future and they can plan accordingly. That's really, really important to them. Always setting a next step moment for a dominant personality is crucial. When we mirror and match their communication style, we're wrapping this whole section up by communication style, staying direct and confident, focusing on results, and handling pushback with facts and confidence, I can promise you'll build strong relationships with the dominant personality types. These strategies allow you to earn respect and trust. They make you more likely to connect with those clients. And I think that they would be more likely to close deals with you because they feel like you get them. When you interact with dominant personalities, what are some challenges that you might encounter in conversation style, in the interaction itself? Well, their decisiveness and directness can be strengths, but it can also create difficulties. If you're not prepared, it can lead to a challenging situation. Most of the time, dominant personalities have high expectations with people that they work with, and they're not afraid to express that. This means they can come off as demanding, especially if they feel like they're not getting the value that they expect from you. So what I would say is you have to be the market expert. You have to know your stuff way more than working with any other personality type, because a dominant personality, those reds that Erickson talks about in the book, they have high expectations for the people that they align themselves with. The key here is managing expectations from the start, being clear about all the next step moments, timelines, deliverables, what happens or what doesn't happen in the transaction, and letting them know what's realistic is very important. For a dominant personality, they're probably going to be the ones that wanted the deal to close yesterday, and it frustrates them to wait through the process. But being able to set clear, realistic expectations on like, hey, I understand that you want to move quickly. Here's how we can streamline it, but here's all the, not roadblocks, but all the things that have to happen before we can make it to the closing table. And if you get X, Y, and Z done sooner, it makes the chances of us maybe hitting that sooner or right on time greater. That is clarity to them, and they will act on that. So that is what they're looking for. Be proactive, set clear boundaries early on, and you can avoid frustration down the line because you've already told them what to expect. Dominant personalities are used to being in control, and sometimes they can come off as overbearing or even confrontational. They may question your decisions, challenge your suggestions, or push you in a way that feels uncomfortable, but don't take it personal. It's a huge thing to know. Don't take it personal. It's just their way of ensuring that they get the best results. And so they're questioning or maybe taking you through the gauntlet, so to say, inside their mind to make sure that you're the right person for them. So be confident when you respond back to them. When faced with confrontation, it's important to remain calm and confident. Don't be intimidated. Please don't be intimidated. It's just the way that they are. Instead, thinking back earlier, respond with facts, logistical reasoning, and if they challenge you on something, calmly explain your reasoning with data to back it up. It's the most important thing that you can do when working with dominant personalities. Be the market expert. That is very, very, very important. It just shows that you know what you're talking about. It shows that you've done their homework, and you will earn their respect, and you'll quiet their doubts sooner rather than later. It's crucial to maintain composure, to not take intensity personally. Once they see that you're confident in your abilities and you can align with them and match them and be as energetic as them, they will be more likely to follow your lead instead of leading themselves. I encourage you to listen to that again because it's very important. One of the more common challenges that dominant personalities portray is expecting fast responses. They don't want to wait around for answers. They're not interested in delays. And if you take too long to get back with them or you delay in getting responses to them, it'll have loss of interest and trust. One thing that you can do is to help them understand what's happening in the process. Keep the communication line prompt and efficient. Even if you don't have full answers right away, give them an update. It's okay to say, I'm still waiting on getting X, Y, and Z from the seller, from the other side, from the agent, but I'll update you as soon as I hear back. I'm hoping to have an answer by X. I'm hoping to have an answer later on this evening, but if I don't, I'll give you an update for where we're at then. It shows that you're on top of things. It gives huge respect and rapport to the other party, and they will appreciate that more than you know and understand. Dominant personality clients appreciate when you stay ahead of the game. Timely communication is essential for keeping them engaged and confident in what you're doing for them as you work for them as the agent. Dominant personalities are results oriented. They're also more likely to notice and critique mistakes. If something goes wrong, whether it's a missed detail in the paperwork or a scheduling conflict, they're probably not shy to point it out. It can be embarrassing sometimes, I get it. And sometimes it can be a little aggressive. And that's okay. We have to understand that's just the way that they're hardwired. But when this happens, the best approach is just to own up to it. Like, we all make mistakes. We all do things a little bit imperfectly sometimes. If we were all perfect, then there wouldn't need to be for conflict resolution. And even though this isn't a conflict resolution moment, we have to still stay on top of it and just admit fault when fault happens. And it's okay to say to them, like, yeah, hey man, you're right. There was this or that or something that happened, but here's how we're going to fix it. Make sure when dealing with things that happen that maybe might be a mistake, you have a solution already in place to fix it and resolve it so that it doesn't affect the overall timeline and effectiveness of the deal itself. Dominant personalities appreciate efficiency, so focusing on solutions instead of dwelling on the problem will help maintain their trust. Remember, they're not looking for an apology as much as they're just looking for action. Show them you're capable of fixing issues quickly, and they will retain their confidence in you. Dominant personalities tend to have a clear picture of what they want, which can make them less flexible when new options or challenges arise. This can be challenging if the real estate market shifts, or if you need them to consider different options or properties that weren't part of the original vision. In these situations, it's important to guide them carefully without pushing too hard. Present alternatives with focus on how they align with the goals that they set up front. It's okay to say, like, hey, while this property didn't work out, here's another one that checks all the boxes that you mentioned, and it's in an even better location. It's within all the goals that you set. And so by framing the new option and our alternatives to them, by meeting their objections, you're making it easier for them to stay open to new possibilities that they might not have thought otherwise. Every challenge that you face with a dominant personality has a solution. Every single one of them. The key is to approach each situation with confidence and clarity and focus on results. Whether they're being impatient, overbearing, or critical, remember it's all about maintaining control as the agent, as the realtor, and showing them that you're just as committed to achieving their goals as they are, and they will understand that in the communication line. In the end, if you can manage these challenges effectively, you're not only building trust, but you're also strengthening your relationship with them, which will lead to smoother transactions, quicker deals, and ultimately more successful deals in the future. So to wrap up today's episode, we covered a lot about dominant personalities, the D in the DISC profile, as Erickson would call it, the reds in the book Surrounded by Idiots. These clients are driven, decisive, results-oriented, and while they can be demanding, they're also extremely powerful allies when you know how to communicate effectively with them. These are the clients that will recommend you to everyone for how good of a job and how well you did by helping them achieve their goals. So by using strategies like mirror and matching, focusing on results, responding confidently with facts, you can build a solid rapport and earn their respect. Remember, the key to working with dominant personalities is to stay efficient, direct, and proactive. They value speed, precision, and when you meet them at their level, you're not just helping them achieve their goals, you're positioning yourself as the go-to market expert. And in this world of real estate, this can be the difference between a one-time transaction or a long-term, lifelong client-agent relationship that will be so beautiful, you have no clue the outcomes that it could have. Next episode on the podcast, we're going to switch gears and dive into the I personality type, the influence profile. Erickson calls them the yellows. These are spontaneous, enthusiastic clients who love storytelling and engagement. These clients thrive on connection. These are the party animals. They love positivity. And so we're going to discuss how to keep them excited, engaged throughout the whole buying and selling process. I promise you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned for that next episode. If you found today's episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the GritWorks podcast. We're doing episodes weekly. Share it with fellow agents, friends. Like, we're trying to build a good culture of being proactive in the market, being able to build resilience and a growth mindset. So let's continue growing together, mastering client communication, and closing more deals, because that's what we all love and what it's all about. I will see you next time in the podcast. My name is Derek. If you enjoyed the episode, leave us a review or connect with me on social. Everything will be down in the comments below. And remember, DISC isn't a tool. It's a game changer of understanding the way that people work for anyone, any agent who's willing to build better relationships, build a better, stronger real estate business just by understanding client interactions and profiles. Have a good week. This episode of the GritWorks podcast is sponsored by the Caldwell Group at eXp Realty, a real estate team in Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio. The Caldwell Group is one of the top teams in the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati markets that strives to produce results for their clients that they're working with. Their agents are top of the line when it comes to all new technology, understanding the market, and presenting results and value to clients. So if you are in the market in the Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati area to either learn more about what your home might be worth in today's market, or just learning about the market in general and what it looks like to buy or sell in the market today, then hit us up in the comments below. We would love to reach out and talk with you more and share with you all the things that are happening inside Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you to the Caldwell Group for sponsoring today's episode.